Okay, so let me introduce you to Frank Allen. Picture this: a guy who is so into time management, he probably schedules his bathroom breaks. Yep, that's Frank. He's got a planner for everything: work, family, meals, and probably when to blink. As a professional speaker on time management, Frank's whole shtick is teaching people how to maximize their time. And honestly, he's good at it. His life is a perfectly oiled machine. But then there's Susan, his wife, who's probably the only person on the planet who doesn't worship Frank's perfectly planned life. She's sweet, caring, and maybe just a little too spontaneous for Frank's taste. One morning, she decides to help by setting the alarm clock back 10 minutes. Her logic? Give Frank a little extra time to relax. Reality? She derails his entire day. A bad day gets worse. So Frank wakes up feeling good. Too good, actually. He's got a lecture on, you guessed it, time management, and he's running late. He misses the ferry, spills coffee on his shirt, and by the time he gets to the lecture, he's a sweaty mess. Imagine trying to tell a room full of people how to manage their time when you can't even get your own alarm clock right. The irony? Not lost on Frank. On the drive home, Frank's day goes from bad to weird. He spots a pregnant woman on the side of the road, clearly in distress. Now, Frank's not exactly the go with the flow type, but he pulls over to help. Turns out she's in labor and needs a ride to the hospital. Frank, being a decent guy, steps up. At the hospital, things get awkward. While the woman is being prepped, the nurses hand Frank some paperwork. Without thinking much about it, he fills it out with his own info. Big mistake. The nurses assume he's the dad, and before he knows it, Frank is getting congratulated on his new baby. The next morning, before Frank can even process the chaos, a nurse calls his house. And guess who picks up? Yep, Susan. The nurse, trying to contact the dad, spills just enough to make Susan think Frank has been leading a double life. Her reaction? Let's just say it's not calm. When Frank gets home, he's greeted by a hurricane of accusations. Susan is convinced he's been cheating and has a secret family. Frank tries to explain, but Susan's not having it. She kicks him out, leaving Frank to crash at a motel and figure out how to fix this mess. The plot thickens. Determined to prove his innocence, Frank goes full detective mode. He even gets a doctor involved, hoping to show Susan that there's no way the baby is his. And boy, does he get proof. The doctor tells Frank he has Klinefelter syndrome, which means he's been infertile his whole life. At first, Frank's relieved. Finally, he can clear his name. But then it hits him. If he can't have kids, what does that mean for his daughter? The one he's loved and raised all these years? Suddenly, Frank's world feels like it's crumbling. The stranger returns. Just when things couldn't get more awkward, the pregnant woman from the hospital shows up at the Allen house to thank Frank for his kindness. She's holding her baby and ready to share the feel-good moment of the year. Except Susan answers the door. Cue the mother of all awkward conversations. The woman explains everything, clearing up the misunderstanding. But the damage is done. Frank now knows the truth. His daughter isn't biologically his. The fallout. Frank spirals. For years, he's prided himself on being the reliable one, the guy who always did the right thing. And now, he feels like the universe just slapped him in the face. He pulls away from Susan and their daughter, unsure of how to move forward. But Frank's not one to wallow for long. At his next time management lecture, he ditches the usual spiel and gives a speech straight from the heart. He talks about how life isn't something you can schedule or control. Sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. A new approach to life. Inspired by his own words, Frank decides to try something radical: living by chance. He writes down 3 options on index cards for every decision: what to eat, where to go, what to do, and picks one at random. At first, it's weird. Frank, the king of planning, is now letting fate call the shots. But slowly, he starts to see the beauty in it. He reconnects with his daughter, realizing that biology doesn't define their bond. He and Susan have some tough conversations, but they begin to rebuild their relationship. Through his new approach to life, Frank discovers things he never made time for before. He starts painting again, something he loved as a kid. He takes spontaneous road trips with his daughter. He even makes new friends, people he wouldn't have met if he'd stuck to his old routine. Frank's journey isn't just about fixing his family. It's about fixing himself. He learns that life isn't a checklist. It's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright ridiculous. And that's okay. The big finish. By the end of his journey, Frank's a changed man. He's still a time management guru, but now his lectures are about balance and flexibility. He tells his audiences that it's okay to let go sometimes, to embrace the chaos. As for his family, they're stronger than ever. Frank realizes that being a dad isn't about DNA. It's about showing up, loving unconditionally, and being there when it matters most.